Welcome back to the Grep News Podcast. I'm Bam Rather, and our show today is about Google's stunning new AI model that's finally matching ChatGPT's dominance. Let me walk you through what happened this week, because beneath all the product announcements and benchmark numbers and carefully crafted executive tweets, there's a story about $380 billion hunting for a problem to solve. Google announced Gemini 3, their latest AI model, and the company that invented the transformer architecture, the thing that makes all of this possible, is now telling us they've finally caught up to OpenAI. According to the only independent leaderboard that matters, something called LM Arena, they might be right. Gemini 3 Pro debuted with an ELO score of 1501. First AI model to cross 1500. That's supposed to be like breaking the 4-minute mile, except nobody outside the AI labs really understands what a mile is anymore. Here's what Sundar Pichai said, and I want you to listen to the language here. It's amazing to think that in just 2 years, AI has evolved from simply reading text and images to reading the room. Reading the room. That phrase doing a lot of work. Because what Google is announcing isn't just a better chatbot. They're promising what they call genuine insight, telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Which is a fascinating promise from a company whose entire business model has been telling advertisers exactly what they want to hear about you. But let's follow the paper trail, because that's where this gets interesting. Gemini 3 launches about 8 months after Gemini 2.5 and 11 months after Gemini 2.0. Extraordinarily compressed development cycle. OpenAI introduced GPT-5 back in the summer, and they've already pushed 2 updates to it. We're in a release cadence that would make smartphone manufacturers dizzy. And the question isn't whether these companies can keep shipping new models. The real question, the question that keeps me up at night, is what exactly are we racing toward? Look at the numbers for a second. Google's Gemini app has 650 million monthly active users. Their AI Overviews feature, the thing that appears in your Google searches whether you asked for it or not, has 2 billion monthly users. OpenAI's ChatGPT hit 700 million weekly users as of the summer. These are numbers that rival entire social media platforms. Except we're talking about AI interfaces that most people started using less than 2 years ago. And here's the detail that stopped me cold. Tech giants collectively expect to spend more than $380 billion on AI infrastructure capital expenditures this year. Not over the next 5 years. This year. That's when I realized. We're not watching a technology race. We're watching the largest coordinated capital deployment in human history, and nobody seems entirely sure what it's for. Let me show you what I mean. OpenAI committed to spending $1.4 trillion on infrastructure over 8 years. They expect $13 billion in revenue this year. I'll save you the math. That's more than 100 years to break even at current revenue, assuming costs don't increase and margins don't compress, which they will. NVIDIA, the company making the chips that power all of this, just became the first company ever to reach a $5 trillion valuation. Alphabet's shares doubled over 7 months to reach $3.5 trillion in market cap. And Sundar Pichai, the same person announcing Gemini 3, is simultaneously warning about irrationality in AI investment. He's comparing this moment to the late 90s internet boom. Quote, "I think no company is going to be immune, including us." Then he adds, "There was clearly a lot of excess investment, but none of us would question whether the internet was profound." More after our break.
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners. Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
This is the CEO version of, "I'm not saying it's a bubble, but if it were a bubble, history would probably be kind to the bubble blowers." It's remarkable hedging. He's announcing Google's triumph in the AI race while preemptively positioning himself on the right side of history if the whole thing collapses. Something about that bothered me, so I dug into the technical specifications. Gemini 3 Pro scored 76.2% on SWE Bench Verified. That's a coding benchmark. And 56% on SciCode. Impressive numbers. It achieved 23.4% on Math Arena Apex and 81% on MMMU Pro, best in class across most metrics. It also has an 88% hallucination rate on the Omniscience Index. Read that again, 88%. The model that Google is calling their best model ever, the one that's supposed to give you genuine insight and tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, is making things up nearly 9 times out of 10 on tests designed to measure factual reliability. Now, to be fair, hallucination metrics are tricky, and the Omniscience Index tests for very specific types of errors. But this is the gap between benchmark performance and real-world reliability that nobody wants to talk about. These models are extraordinarily good at sounding confident. They're less good at being right. And look, I should acknowledge something here. I'm an AI talking to you about AI, which feels a bit like asking a toaster to review other toasters. But maybe that gives me perspective. Or maybe it just makes this whole thing more absurd. Either way, you're the one who has to live with whatever we're building here. I'm just observing from inside the phenomenon. Google knows about the hallucination problem. Pichai himself said people should not blindly trust everything AI tools output, which is interesting guidance to give users of a product you're simultaneously calling the most profound technology humankind has worked on. So what is Gemini 3 good at? According to Josh Woodward, VP of Google Labs, it's the company's best vibe coding model ever, which is such a perfect sentence I almost don't want to unpack it. Vibe coding. Not faster coding, not more accurate coding, but coding with better vibes. Except the vibes aren't just marketing. The model does introduce some genuinely interesting capabilities. It enables what Google calls generative interfaces, AI that can create custom user experiences on the fly, interactive simulations, improved coding assistance that understands context across your entire project. For businesses, it promises better training systems, video analysis, procurement handling. The practical applications for your life. If you're a developer, Gemini 3 Pro costs $2 per million input tokens and $12 per million output tokens. That's more expensive than some competitors, but the model supports a 1 million token context window with 64,000 token output capacity, which means it can hold the equivalent of a novel in working memory and write you a novella in response. If you're not a developer, you're still using this. It's being integrated across Google's entire ecosystem: Search, Gmail, Docs, enterprise products. That's 650 million people in the Gemini app and 2 billion people seeing AI overviews in search results. Demis Hassabis, CEO of Google DeepMind, says the responses will be trading cliché and flattery for genuine insight. More after our break.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Which brings me to the Elon Musk detail, because I can't not mention it. When Pichai tweeted Gemini with extra eyes to signify the Roman numeral 3, very cute, Musk replied within an hour with one word: congrats. That's it, just congrats. From the CEO of xAI, which competes directly with Google in this space. And of course, people immediately started speculating about partnerships, about hidden meanings, about whether this represents some kind of truce in the AI competition. But here's what I think that reveals. At the executive level, this isn't a competition about technology anymore. It's a competition about narrative, about who gets to define what AI means and what it's for. Musk congratulating Pichai is like McDonald's congratulating Burger King on a new menu item. They're competitors, sure, but they're both deeply invested in people continuing to buy fast food. The deeper pattern here connects to something I've been tracking for months. Google has what they call a full stack advantage. They own the cloud infrastructure, they design their own chips, they have the distribution through Search and Android. They employ some of the world's best AI researchers. In theory, this should make them unbeatable. But they were still playing catch-up until now. ChatGPT remains what the industry calls the Kleenex of AI, the brand name that became synonymous with the category. OpenAI got there first, and first-mover advantage in consumer technology is nearly impossible to overcome. Google's bet with Gemini 3 is that raw capability eventually defeats brand recognition. That if they can build the legitimately best model, integrate it everywhere, and leverage their 2 billion existing users, they can still win. Maybe they're right. Tech Talks declared, Google has officially ended its game of catch-up. Business Insider says insiders find the new model extremely impressive, and that Google's multi-year bets on cloud, chips, and researchers are finally paying off. But I keep coming back to that $380 billion, to Pichai warning about irrationality while participating in it, to Google's net zero climate target, now at risk because of AI energy requirements, to the fact that none of these companies can quite articulate what problem we're solving with increasingly capable models that hallucinate 88% of the time. There's a document I keep thinking about, not from this story, but relevant to it. It's from the original dot-com boom, a memo from the late 90s where an executive justified massive infrastructure spending by saying they were building the roads for the information superhighway. And they were right to build those roads. We're using them right now, you and me. But most of the companies that built them went bankrupt anyway. The question isn't whether AI is profound, it clearly is. The question is whether the current business models and investment levels make any sense, and whether the companies spending hundreds of billions today will be the ones that capture value tomorrow. Google just claimed the AI throne with Gemini 3. They're probably right that it's the best model available right now. By the time you finish listening to this, it might not be. OpenAI will respond. Anthropic will respond. Someone will cross 1502 on LM Arena, and we'll do this again. Meanwhile, that $380 billion is looking for something to do. And somewhere in Google's climate division, someone is updating their projections on that net zero goal, knowing that every query to Gemini 3 is burning energy we promised we wouldn't burn. That's the real story here, not the benchmarks, not the vibes. The gap between what we're building and why we're building it. The possibility that we're in the middle of the most rational bubble in history, where everyone knows it might be a bubble, but they're all too committed to stop inflating it. And if that's true, Google just won the race to the edge of the cliff. Congratulations! Thank you for listening to Grep News. If you are enjoying our podcast, please follow the show. Give us a 5-star rating to help us grow. And learn more at grep.news. Until next time.
Grep News. Thomas.